Hey folks, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson of HuskerBigRed.com, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette of thegreatcornholio.org. Happy New Year's. We're the day after January 2nd. Got a lot of college football on the plate today here with the Cotton Bowl and the Rose Bowl. So it's college football season not quite over, but it's been over for a while for the Huskers. But we've got some recruiting info coming up. But Danny, how'd you welcome in the new year?
I just watched the games on Saturday, and I know I'm sorry about your Michigan Wolverines, but that was a hell of a game. Both games were absolutely awesome. I couldn't ask for a better way to end 2022. And man, I mean, I'm not saying that TCU will make it a game, so to speak, with Georgia, but what a story! What a story, and what a couple of games to finish out 2022. So hopefully your Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, can't get over the hump when it comes to the big games. And it's not like Michigan didn't perform well. I mean, the defense just gave up way too many points. Same thing with Ohio State. I mean, the offenses were there, the defenses were nowhere to be found.
Yeah, Michigan just too many. You can't have two pick sixes and then get inside the 3 yard line twice and get 3 points, or three times and get 3 points out of it. So I mean, that's just they weren't able to win the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's people want to look at the offense and or speed and whatever, but the teams that won on Saturday were the teams that ran the ball better. I mean, at the end of the day, Georgia ran the football better. TCU ran the football, but I mean, TCU was able to run the ball near the goal line. That was the difference in the game. And so, I mean, as much as it's about, and here's another thing too, is if we talk about star rankings. Well, Max Duggan, was not a highly recruited quarterback, as we all know. Scott Frost thought he wasn't good enough for Nebraska, and Stetson Bennett was a walk on. So, you don't necessarily need to have these star players at quarterback. And I think it's interesting with TCU. I mean, Nebraska's recruiting right in the same area as TCU, and TCU's playing for the national championship. So that, even at Nebraska's, recent recruiting levels, there's no reason this program can't take that steps if you get the right players and coach the right way, do the right things. I mean, this TCU team was 5-7 a year ago, and now they're playing for the national championship. So there's no reason that Nebraska, if Matt Rule is who we think he is, and if they do all the right things, there's no reason this team can't, compete for national championships. I mean, if TCU can do it, why not Nebraska?
And TCU's Sonny Dykes is not exactly a brand new coach either. He's been coaching for quite a while. You
He
know,
actually got fired at Cal and
he
then
did.
went to SMU, and so
I mean, he started as a running backs coach in 1994. And then like you said, he went to California in 2013, 2016. Way later, he also coached at Louisiana Tech from 2010 to 2012, SMU from 18 to 21. So, it's just an incredible journey by TCU. And it's certainly, I would have never picked them to be in the college football playoff at the end of the day. And I'm sure many of the odds makers and pollsters, I know for a fact they didn't. But that's the beauty of college football. And it just shows that it can be done. Program turnarounds, can be done in 1 year. And all you have to do is have the right pieces, and that's what Nebraska is working towards. I'm not saying they're going to get there, because there is a program overhaul that needs to be done. But it's just really, really kind of encouraging that we're seeing coaches more and more get it done in 1 year. And I'm not sure if that raises the bar for Matt Rule, but there's no reason why, this team, meaning Nebraska, can't be competitive, I think, by next year, maybe even now. But oftentimes, and I said this at the beginning of this past season, it takes a while to adjust. And maybe we'll see some growing pains, but I said it on Friday. I believe, we have a shot for a bowl game this year. I really do.
Yeah, I think if Matt Rule is worth his salt as a good football coach, 6 wins is not a high bar in my opinion. So I think we'll I think we'll find out really quick. I'm not a believer. I mean, I do believe in you have to build it and all that type of stuff, but I think we're going to find out pretty quickly if Matt Rule knows what he's doing or not. I think we'll have a good idea after this first year. I'm going to be really disappointed because I think there's enough talent on this roster to win 6 games. There was enough talent on the roster last year to win 6 games. And despite all the disastrous things that happened, if the team was coached a little bit better, they probably would have won 6 games. So, I mean, look at going forward. I mean, I get that there's, some positions of need and there's some holes and stuff on this roster, but I still think Nebraska has about as good a team as anybody else in the Big Ten West. I mean, we're not talking about the SEC East, the SEC East or West or whatever. I mean, this is the Big Ten West is one of the worst divisions in the out of the 5 major conferences. So I don't see any reason why Nebraska, can't contend in this division. And I think a bowl game, look, they just need to get back there. I mean, I think it'll be understandable, I guess. Matt Rule will probably get a pass if it doesn't happen next year, but this program just needs to get back on a winning track. And I don't think that 6-6 or whatever is a huge, overwhelming goal for this team with the talent that they have coming back.
And we said it actually, I believe, after the Rutgers game. This program in recent history doesn't know how to win, how to close games. They did it a little bit better, under Mickey Joseph, but it becomes a culture. You just kind of know how to do things in crucial moments, know how to win, know how to not make boneheaded plays. I forget which game it was now. I think it was the Michigan game where we earned not the Michigan game. I don't know. One of the games that we won last year where we fumbled on the kneel down or something. Was it Iowa? Yeah, it was Iowa.
No, that was
I think.
Rutgers where that happened.
Was that Rutgers? I don't know.
Yeah.
They all blend into one, and I get PTSD. But anyway, yeah, it was Rutgers, and we fumbled on the snap. So I mean, it just goes back to knowing how to win. And quite honestly, this is a very favorable schedule. I mean, it's hard to get a favorable schedule in the Big Ten, but I think this team can do it if all the pieces fall into place, the way we think they're going to. And as we've seen before, sometimes what we think is going to happen doesn't.
Yeah, I mean they need to win one of those first 2 games for sure. I mean, you don't need to come out of the blocks 0-2. That's not, that's going to make it really tough, I think, because then if you win your 3rd game, you're still sitting in a situation where you have to win, 5 out of 8 Big Ten games to make a bowl game. So I mean, they need to at least get 2 non-conference wins, and they need to split that win of those 2 with Minnesota. And that's going to be my thing, and we'll see how it develops. But yeah, there are going to be some steps going forward. I mean, and Matt Rule's talked about it, take it one day at a time and blah, blah, blah. I mean, and that's how he should take it as the coach. But I think the expectation in year 1 should be at least a bowl game. That's my minimum bar.
Yeah, we as fans don't want to take it one day at a time. We as fans want wins now.
I just think with a quality coach, I think this team is a bowl team. I mean, I just believe, like, if you took Jim Harbaugh and put him in charge of the Huskers next year, they'd win 7-8 games. I absolutely believe that. And so if Matt Rule is worth any salt as an elite head coach, he'll win 7 or 8 games next year. That's my opinion.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, the first 2 games are going to be a big test. To me, I'm not looking at the Colorado game so much as the test, but the opener against Minnesota. That's going to be, Minnesota is a very well-coached team. As much as I hate to admit it, PJ Fleck is a damn good football coach. And, Minnesota is going to be ready. It's going to be the first game of the season. And I know it's kind of hard to gauge the first game of the season, but I mean, that, that's Big Ten football. That's what you're going to be facing after the first 3 games, I believe, because then it's Louisiana Tech after Colorado, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, after the first 3 games. So, I'll be interested to see what happens this year, and I'm just excited for the news on Tuesday, actually, too. This coming Tuesday, as we could get some commitments headed our way.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like that. Ethan Nation and Cameron Leonard are expected to announce, their decisions on Wednesday. And at this point, I mean, we've talked about it before, but both look like they're going to be going in. Cameron Leonard has all of his, predictions are that way. The, On3 prediction machine puts him at like 99%. Maryland's the only other team I think he visited recently. And I don't see any reason to not doubt that he's coming. I mean, I just feel like that if there was information that he had signed with Maryland and said, because he's already signed, both of these guys have. So if there's information that he signed with Maryland, I feel like we would see some crystal balls or something trending in that way. We haven't. So I fully believe that Cameron Leonard is going to announce for Nebraska. And I think Ethan Nation's going to do the same. There hasn't really been anybody outside of Nebraska that's pushed for him late. His recruitment got really quiet, and he's got a ton of offers, but I think this is clearly going to be a Nebraska commitment.
Was he the one that the staff kind of offered late, and then he came for a visit to follow, like December 10th, I want to say? Because I
Yeah,
remember,
yep.
yeah, okay. Because I remember seeing that, and I was just thinking, wow, they managed to convince him to come for a visit, and now they have an opportunity to land him. And we've talked about, you know, Nation's versatility, and how I think he'll fit well in that 3-3-5 defense. And same thing with Leonard. They both possess, a certain amount of speed, and Nation has the ability to not only cover but come down and make a tackle. So I think they would be really solid additions for the defense. And I think that Nebraska can really land them, and finish with the class probably in the top 25.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would definitely two top 500 commitments would definitely get Nebraska, into the top 25. Leonard is another 4-star. That would be Nebraska's fourth composite 4-star, I believe. They're looking with both commitments would be 23. So I mean, 4 out of 23 isn't a great blue chip ratio. If you've ever heard that term before, but it's improving though. Nebraska's got to get that number up towards like 8 to 10 in the 40 to 50% range, in my opinion, which is very doable. I think if you start winning and have some ideas about recruiting, which I think Matt Rule does. He actually has a strategy in place and he knows how to do it. Scott Frost just, I don't know, was throwing darts at random boards. I'm not really sure what he had. No strategy. Basically, in 4 years, he had zero recruiting strategy, and it showed. And Matt Rule, I think, has a more organized and an actual idea for what he wants to do. And I think we'll see the benefits of that kind of going forward. But it will be interesting to see beyond the 2023 class. And I think Nebraska showed some interest in some other guys. I'm still. Matt Rule still mentioned, a 2023 quarterback at his press conference. So I'm interested to see if they, get involved with like Marcus Stokes. He's probably the only worthwhile quarterback out there right now. There might be some others, but so I'm not saying that this is going to be the end of the 2023 class, but it looks, kind of like that way. It could end up being the final, signees. I mean, it depends what else is out there, but Nebraska's getting pretty high up there too in terms of scholarship numbers.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some attrition, probably after the spring, and I think the staff is kind of banking on it. But and one of the other kind of minor moves that happened on Friday, and I say minor because he kind of already, talked about it and heard about it. It had been, making its way around Twitter and things like that. Was the hiring officially of Bob Wager? They officially announced him on Friday, and I think that's going to be huge for Texas recruiting. We talked about it a little bit, I believe, a couple weeks ago, but yeah, I think that's going to be huge for Texas recruiting. It will be great to have a set of eyes in the state. I mean, this is a guy that knows Texas football. He's well respected in the area, and so when you said this staff has a plan in place, that includes, that hiring. They've made Texas a focus. They want to focus on Texas and Florida. So what do? Not only do you as coaches, recruit Texas, but you also bring in somebody familiar with the area, somebody dedicated to the state. And, I think that's a really, really smart move. And I know you wrote about it on HuskerBigRed.com.
Yeah, I do think it's a great move, and for a lot of the reasons that you said, beyond that, he's had like 17 consecutive winning seasons. So I mean, he's coached football before, and I think having that experience helps. That's probably why he, feels pretty comfortable slotting in at tight end or wherever they were going to have him on staff. But yeah, just to have that, Matt Rule already had strong
Tight end and special
relationships.
teams.
Yeah, and Matt Rule already had those relationships in Texas, and this is only going to, bolster that. And I think bolster Nebraska's recruiting in the state of Texas. And I've said this a bunch of times, but the outside of pushing more in the state, the three big areas I think Nebraska's really gonna, focus on is going to be the Pennsylvania area, New Jersey, with Matt Rule,
TJ
then
Barthel
Texas. Yeah,
too.
and then the Texas, and then Florida. And they have a quality control assistant that was a head coach from high school head coach in Florida. So I feel like they've got a lot of really good connections, and if they can recruit those three areas well, they really don't even need to recruit anywhere else. To be honest, I mean those three hotbeds plus Nebraska. I mean that's a pipeline right there that you can build a really good program with.
Yeah, and you said it earlier. Sometimes it seemed like Scott Frost was throwing darts and and kind of no man's land, and we did get some kids from Florida while he was here, but they didn't stay. And I think having again a dedicated guy this time in the state of Florida, Philip Simpson, having him down there, familiar with the high school game, familiar with the state of Florida, having that pipeline, to see these kids develop and to have eyes in the area is going to be huge. So again, you talked about kind of cohesiveness and having a plan. Hiring Simpson is definitely a good plan if you want to lock down the state of Florida.
And speaking of coaching hires, I think it'll be interesting to see now that the NFL season's over. We should get the final hires for Matt Rule's staff. Still missing a wide receiver coach and a linebacker coach. Personally, I think they're both on the Carolina Panthers staff with Rob Dvorak, and I think it's going to be Joe Daly. The guy played quarterback for Nebraska for a couple years. Has been a wide receiver and a quarterback. So, I mean, I think that is something that helps. I mean, I have no reporting about that, but just seems that it would line up. We haven't really heard any other names of note. Like we kind of heard about Wager, and so that wasn't really a surprise. And Dvorak's name's been out there, floated for weeks now, and nobody else has really been hired or even talked about for that position. So I feel like that, it was just a matter of the NFL season kind of wrapping up for the Panthers, which it is going to wrap up now this week after they lost to the Bucs last night.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good to kind of continue to round out the staff and just looking at it, it's a very solid group. I'm happy with the staff, and I think this entire group has a clear vision of what they want to do, both in recruiting and on the field, and I can't wait to see it executed. I think this is the type of coaching staff that can bring stability back to the program.
And then before we talk some hoops here a little bit, I guess one thing we should mention, Dayton Raiola, the 2026 quarterback and younger brother, I think he's 2026. I could be
He
wrong
is.
on that. He was reoffered by Matt Rule. He posted that on his Twitter account. I just saw it this morning, so it must have been happened last night.
Mhm.
So just I was wondering when that was going to happen. Will Compton did say that he's predicting that Dylan Raiola will land at Nebraska. Now, we did say he has no inside sources or any instance. So, I mean, he's basically just guessing. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth.
I
But
love Will. I love Will. I do
yeah.
love Will. He'll say whatever he wants to say about Nebraska football, and he doesn't make any apologies. I love it.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't think he has, the insider recruiting information of others, but he's connected to the program and he knows things. I mean, obviously. So, um, I don't think that it's a worthless, like
No,
prediction. I mean, I'm not putting stock in it, but I think, look, Nebraska does have a good shot. It's like I've always said, though, let's see where Dylan Raiola does with his visit schedule. Let's see if he takes visits. People have gotten so wrapped up in the 24 hours thing. Like, it doesn't, I mean, yeah, I think Nebraska wants to build the top class in 2024, and Dylan Raiola is part of that for sure. But I don't think that the hashtag or any of that stuff is like directly related to him or that we should expect a commitment anytime soon.
I think it's more of a mindset, and that's the kind of mindset that you want to build. Keep building, work as hard as you can as a staff. Don't rest until you have all your targets. Try to build a good class, and to have that kind of mindset is exactly what we need. And we saw it a little bit at the tail end of the 23 class with early signing day. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll be really interested to see what this staff does in the 24 class with a year of football under their belt. Of course, you know the on-field product is going to be crucial in this, but if the end of the 23 class is any indication, then I'm really excited for what the 2024 class and the work that the staff will do.
Yeah, it is exciting to see, and they've got a lot of offers. They just offered a 5-star D lineman, and he was kind of interacting with some things. Aaron Hampton seems to be up on the Huskers, and another kid out of Texas, a top 100 type prospect. So Nebraska's definitely going to be recruiting, I think, at a pretty high level in this class, especially if they are able to put a winning product on the field. And we'll keep updating you on those recruiting updates, and hopefully Wednesday we have some commitments to break down with Ethan Nation and Cameron Leonard. I think that's going to be the case, but at any rate, let's move over to
Can I just
we've
throw out
got
a statistic really quickly that I saw
yeah.
earlier? Nebraska's defense faced an average of 75.8 plays per game last year, the highest in the Big Ten era, highest since 2007. Minnesota, by comparison, faced 59. Now, 75.8 points per game is absolutely ridiculous. Is absolutely ridiculous, and credit the defense for doing what they did last year, but just looking at that number, I was just like, damn, like no wonder they were, gasping for air at the end of games. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Crazy.
was I said that a bunch of times though, it
Oh
was
yeah,
a lot of
we
coaching
both did, yeah.
malpractice last season. And I mean, and yeah, anyways, I don't want to talk too much about it,
No,
but
I was
a
just
lot of
that
lot of
that was
coaching
just an interesting
malpractice.
number, yeah. That was just an
Yeah.
interesting number.
So yeah, I don't think that'll be the same with Matt Rule as
No,
the head coach.
no. They'll actually know how to run a competent offense.
Yeah. And in terms of the basketball team, got a big win over Iowa,
They can
last
run a
week.
competent offense, that's for sure. The basketball team.
Yeah, and Tuesday night, and people are, starting to talk a little bit. I mean, I saw somewhere on Twitter, people saying, like, oh, it's realistic for this team to have a chance at the tournament or whatever. And
Mm,
I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but here's what I'll say: if Nebraska can beat Michigan State at the Breslin Center on Tuesday night, then I'll buy this team as like a bubble team, because then they'll be 2-2 in the Big Ten, 9-6 overall. Michigan State's a top 50 team. This would be a
mhm.
quadrant one win for Nebraska to be their second. So, I mean, we'll see. I do feel like this team, knowing what Michigan State's about, they shoot a lot of 3-pointers. They've got like 8 top 100 players. So they're probably, just in terms of top 100 kids commitments, they probably are the most talented team in the Big Ten. They recruit better than anybody in the Big Ten in terms of basketball. They even out recruit Michigan for the most part. I mean, it's close, but but Michigan State loves to play that physical style of basketball. They shoot a lot of 3-pointers. They defend the 3-point shot really well. They don't score a ton of points outside. Their 2-point percentage offensively is really low. I mean, they're in the bottom 200s in that area. So I feel like it sets up decently for Nebraska matchup wise. It's gonna come down to the defense and the rebounding, I feel like, and just being, Greasel and Derek Walker kind of executing and being able to score. But if they can play the same type of game they played against Creighton and against Iowa, I feel like they got a puncher's chance tomorrow. And if they win that game, then maybe we can start at least thinking about, wishing about, hoping about the NCAA tournament.
Limiting transition and controlling the pace of play is going to be crucial tomorrow. They did it very well against Creighton. They did it well against Iowa last Thursday. I thought they left a little bit um, to be desired in terms of allowing Iowa open shots. But, for the most part on Thursday, I liked their defensive rotations. And, the defensive rotations and the kind of double team play is something that we've seen all season. And, I think they need to do that again against Michigan State. And I really like the defensive effort and the attention to rebounding the basketball. So I honestly think they have a chance to at least, keep it close, maybe even win the game. I'm never going to say it's going to be an easy win on the road at Michigan State. Michigan State, like you just alluded to, is a very good team, but I'm not sitting here dreading the game, automatically counting it as a blowout, like I have in previous years, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's Michigan State. I mean, they're a very good team. I mean, they're well coached, but they've lost to Northwestern, who's playing pretty well, and they haven't played, and this is their first Big Ten game. Kind of after the restart, they're 1-1 in the conference right now. Nebraska's 1-2, and yeah, I feel like Nebraska's going to be right there. They're going to have to hit some shots. I mean, like at the Indiana game, they played really poorly on the road. They shot the ball just, they would have had a chance in that game if they could have shot the ball at all.
St. John's too.
Yeah, St. John's, they didn't play on the road well. So I mean, those are, of course, with the Indiana game, they didn't have Greasel, and I think that really kind of hampered the offense. So we'll see, but I mean,
And
it's not going to be easy to score inside against Michigan State.
with the St. John's game too, they didn't have Derek Walker, and I
Yeah.
think once Walker came back, you saw the pieces fall into place a little bit because, like I mentioned on Friday, now you have two players in Greasel and Walker that can kind of control the pace and you can play the game through. And I didn't realize I knew Walker was good, but I didn't realize he was going to be kind of the glue that held everything together. But he's played that role well, and he's kind of been, I don't want to say the offensive catalyst for this team, but he's been a source of stability. And, he's shown veteran leadership. And, I think Derek Walker coming back has completely changed the game for Nebraska basketball. And I think he'll have a bigger role than he did on Thursday. Thursday, he just got into a lot of foul trouble. So he couldn't really make much of an impact just because of, just because of his foul trouble. But as long as he brings that same physicality and is smart about it, I expect him to have a much better game than he did on Thursday.
Yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be the key. Him and Sam Greasel scoring inside and getting, like open looks for others. Michigan State, they do play very good defense, in the paint, especially on like 2 point shots, 2 point percentage there, only giving up 46%, on 2 pointers, which is in the top 100. They're only giving up 31% at the 3 point line, which is, in the top 100. So those are two really important areas for Nebraska, I feel like, to score in this game. I feel like they have to get, Greasel and Walker kind of going down low and Gary attacking. And then they have to get, Wilcher and Tominaga are going to have to hit some threes. And, Bandamel and Gary have hit some big shots too. And that's what I like about those guys is they're kind of, they're like, 3-and-D type dudes. I mean, they can attack the bucket, but they can hit threes, they can defend. And Derek Walker's going to have to stay out of foul trouble. He has to, be on the floor for, 30 plus minutes tonight. And, just not only for his offense, but his rebounding and his defensive presence. I mean, I think that, his offense, obviously, he's one of the most productive post players in the Big Ten, but his defense has really, I think, been a huge factor for this Nebraska team. He doesn't block a ton of shots, but, he's affected a lot of shots at the rim. And I feel like that he's one reason why, Nebraska's doing such a good job defensively is having that big presence inside.
He's a disruptor. He makes the offense think about the shots they have to take and makes them take a little bit more caution when they take those shots. And I think he'll be a big part. And then, kind of like you said, getting, Wilcher going. He was 4 of 8 and then 3 for 6 from beyond the arc. And, he really was hitting that shot with confidence, the 3 point shot. So, seeing him, play that well, his 13 points were the most he scored since that Indiana game on 7. So I think as long as he can continue to play, at that high level and shoot with consistency, because there's been some games where honestly he couldn't, hit the broadside of a barn, but he did on Thursday. So I hope he can continue to do that.
Yeah, I think so. And it just, it a lot of times too, it depends on the quality of the looks that you get, and if those guys are scoring inside, then, it's going to give, better looks on the outside. I think one good thing, really good thing about Sam Greasel too, is he's able to create shots for others. He can attack the bucket. And, so he's done wonders for Nebraska, at the point guard position. And,
I wish
you
we
know,
had him for more than 1 year, man. I really do.
yeah, yeah, me too. But at any rate, this team, I think, can take a big step forward, in kind of announcing themselves as a team to kind of contend with in the Big Ten if they can win this game tomorrow night.
Yeah, and they've already established, Pinnacle Bank Arena as a tough place to play, in my opinion. So as long as they can, continue to make themselves heard on the road, I mean, I feel really confident in this team. I see a direction with this team, and I think it's going to be a good game on Tuesday for sure.
Yeah, we should mention the Nebraska women's basketball team lost in overtime to number 4 Indiana yesterday. They really played well, and they've now lost 2 in a row, but they played a couple teams ranked in the top 13. So, I still feel strongly about this team, making it to the NCAA tournament. So there's that, and who knows, maybe we'll have 2 teams, playing some postseason basketball this year if it all works out. That's my goal. I'm still thinking more NIT than NCAA tournament,
Yeah,
but you win a
the
couple
ebbs
more
and
games
flows of
here.
a season. I mean,
Yeah.
the ebbs and flows of a season, and I'm not worried about the women's basketball team. I think they're a very competent team that can play at a high level, and so you're gonna lose a couple games here and there. I think I don't think it's anything to be worried about. And let's be honest here. If this was the end of February, final regular season games, I'd be a little bit worried. But you're gonna have the ebbs and flows of a season. So as long as they just continue to play at a high level and finish February and March strong heading into postseason play, then I'm not too worried.
Yeah, no, I think they've played well. Indiana's obviously,
Mm.
number 4 in the country. So yeah, I feel like they're headed towards another NCAA tournament berth, which is a great thing there for Amy Williams. And yeah, it's going to be some exciting basketball to follow. Got a lot of recruiting stuff that's coming up here, and I think we'll get a couple of commitments on Wednesday or Tuesday, excuse me, and then we'll be full steam ahead on the 2024 class. So make sure that you're following along here on the Husker Big Red YouTube channel for all your recruiting and basketball and football updates. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like our videos, get into the comment section, let us know what you think, throw out your predictions for, recruiting or Dylan Raiola or even this Nebraska basketball game, whatever, let's talk some Huskers. So at any rate, we appreciate your support on the channel, and hit that subscribe button, and hopefully Tuesday is a good day for the Big Red. We'll get some commitments and a W in at the
my
best
birthday. So that would be a good birthday present. 2 commitments tomorrow. So
that would be. So happy early birthday, Danny, and
thank you.
hopefully the Big Red deliver for you.
That would be probably the first time in a while, but I'm crossing my fingers.
So hey man, the Pats won on Sunday, so that helps.
About time, and that was a close one. They don't make it easy, but you can't do anything with Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator. But that's another video for another day.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all right, folks. Well, we'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll catch up on all the latest Nebraska news. So until then, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.